Hi, today is last day of the month of September month, 30th of September. So let's look at BTC to start with at a low time frame. 6 hours is the time frame I chose. Here, a quick recap before we dive into the present setup or current setup. This was the most important bounce, I would say. It was a retest of this low, and it got the bounce, perfect bounce. Not just that, it bounced all the way to the next level and then dipped. And this level was also given in advance during the weekly call. And when it came down, it got supported. So we can say this was another important milestone. This was another important milestone. Getting bounced from here was another important part. Then there was one more bounce. You may say another try to break above this zone. It retraced a little bit, which is common, very common. But the good thing is the setup is very positive. If you look at it now, the setup is still good. Basically, it is trying to put pressure on the upside. So this is a big zone that I see that it has to clear up at this moment, like this. Okay. So this is the path which I had. So this simple thing. This is the path where it could move in a zigzag manner. The main message is the direction is up from here onwards, right? Of course, when it was in a correction, it was going down and down. But ever since it started bouncing from here, the direction is up on a short term. So this is 6 hour indicating what are the key levels from where it is reacting. So again, this is not a problem. So here it is at a critical level, support 1, and trying to bounce, which is so looking positive on low time frame, intraday time frame. Let's look at 1 day. So 1 day, I don't think we see something major, different. It's still looking positive, especially this candle on Thursday was very promising, if you ask me. On Friday, yesterday, this was like, okay, kind of neutral, not doji, but still, it was more like consolidation. And this is today. Usually, like in recent times, BTC doesn't make move on Saturday, Sunday. But if I see there is good movement from crypto on Saturday, which is very positive sign. Very positive sign. So it's not waiting for Monday, basically. And I'm liking it. So this is really looking good. If you look at it, this also closed on support and now it is taking off. So this is really positive. So what we would like to see is to continue and touch this. So here again, around 27,800 or 28K, it is going to pause. Remember when I say pause, but this is also like a pause. So another move on the upside and then some kind of consolidation and then another leg up towards 29K plus or to 29K at least in this region. So looking good. So far, so good. So far, so good. Timing point of view. This is the angle at which it's moving. So next 1 week or so, you should see somewhere nearby. Yeah, so very positive so far. So this is about the potential positive move on the upside and all the positive setup or upside move. What is the downside level that we have to watch? I would say this 26K, or maybe you can say low of this one, which is what 25,990, which is almost the same. So this low basically to be washed out. So unless and until it comes down to this level again, there is no downside risk. only if this level is broken, 26K level is broken, and it tries to move near this 25K level, then that's a point of concern. Okay, so anything here, even 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 if it comes down to this level, just in case, that's also not a point of concern. Okay, only if it breaks below. So from what I see here, I don't see any immediate risk, right? That means if it could break above, then we can imagine it can really boost the overall market. In fact, I'm just jumping ahead because I have my screen open where I could see some of the altcoins, swing coins, right, are making move ahead, like in advance, so which is very positive. So this is very encouraging. Okay, so that's one day. So now we'll look into weekly. So now at this moment, it is having a nice bounce. So this was a nice weekly candle. This was a little bit of concerning with the way it was moving up nicely actually. It shaped up nicely, but it lost the momentum. But good that it didn't go all the way down. So that was the good part. And this week, this is a nice looking green candle. This is lovely candle, in fact. Okay, so far today still is Saturday, so this is lovely candle. What I would like to see, if the week ends about this candle, then it would be awesome. It's not that it must, but that would be awesome. Okay, still, even if it closes nearby 27,300, I don't mind actually. I don't mind, but that would be awesome. So what I'm looking at it, so right now we'll remove these scenarios because those are not happening. When it was here, we had to think about it. Now we don't have to think about it, right? Those are improbable scenarios at this moment. Those are possibilities, but not probable scenarios no longer. Okay, we'll see. If situation changes, we'll see. We will have enough time. And as I mentioned, 26K level will monitor. So it is not going to happen overnight. There will be enough time to think about and plan about. Okay, so but this is very simple. Looks like the symmetrical pattern that we had discussed once. I'm not sure if you remember, but this is the pattern. I had a very W. This is W, but not. But you can say this is symmetrical pattern. This is what it seems to be making as of now. Remember, this height is not enough to confirm this. Remember, this is a projection. And what we do is in TA is we think that, okay, what pattern it is following? There can be more than one pattern. And we try to narrow down the patterns and say, okay, looks like this is the pattern it's following. And then each pattern has its required level. So I would say if it breaks above 29K, then we'll say this is what it wants to do, and so on. Right. So this is too early to say that this is the pattern. But I think if even if it breaks about 28,500, I would say then we can say that okay, now this is the confirmed pattern. So now it's a probable pattern, but then it will get key confirmation. Yeah, by I think what it'll also do is while doing this, it'll also look at this one. If you look at downtrend line, it is matching up. If I connect the high, connecting this candle's high, so it has already touched this one or came very, yeah, almost there. You see, let me remove this. Look at that. So this is very good. So we are there, very close in a way. I'm liking it. Okay, so a little bit of push, as I said, if it can close about the last week's high, that would be awesome. Okay, and about this 28,500 will confirm that it really wants to go up. So these are stepping stones. Okay, like each level, we get confidence level, because as I always say that these levels are like dimmer switch. It's not like on off switch. Okay, the good doesn't change into bad and bad doesn't change into good all of a sudden. Okay, there are levels which it has to break above or below to change the status. So that's how it is. So this is in direction of improvement. Okay, now if we zoom out, ultimately this is the level it has to break above, right? Which is not so far actually. So far so good, I would say. Yeah, especially this candle is very encouraging. So many people are bearish, especially here. If you look at crypto community, extremely bearish environment, and I can understand them why. And I think it's not just bearish but frustrated. Now, frustration is so obvious because they have no clue what it wants to do. And to be honest, DXY, which we'll see soon, DXY was crazy, and still, I mean, it is so strong, so crazy that nobody would believe that Bitcoin would do even this much, because everybody thinks that DXY and Bitcoin is always inverse. And I have been telling that it is inverse, but not every day, not every other week. It is about the trend and it is about the key levels. And then they move sometime in the same direction, but at a larger scale, from a trend point of view, they are in the opposite. So I think that people miss that point. Uh, but here on our platform, I keep reminding that it's not like that. So Bitcoin actually started moving up when the DXY was near the resistance, which we'll look at it. And that's very normal, I would say, because at resistance, they expect reaction in the downside. That's why, technically speaking. Okay, so let's look at another setup of BTC. So this is so nice. Huh? This is so nice. Now it is more moving towards the middle of the green zone, right? So this is moving away from the borderline. So this is awesome. This is simple, so simple. Like this is like grading. As long as it's in green, it's good. And here weakness, and this is risk. This is such a simple representation. But yeah, it requires patience, because while it is coming down, especially looking at this candle, it is not easy to accept. And especially when it is here, our mind would assume that it is going to go down. It will assume. And many people are talking about it. And they would use different methods. For example, they would draw trend line like this and say, oh, you know what? This is a trend line like this. And here it is broken. So it's gone. They're not wrong. They're not wrong that this is broken. But unfortunately, this is not the only thing that you have to see as a TA. Okay, this is very basic thing that we look at it, but this is not ultimate thing. Okay, so people miss such point. Not just that, actually, many indicators, to be honest, many indicators actually are indicating downside move. Many indicators. I think even the MACD and RSI and so many. But excuse me. Okay, so um, it is so obvious that environment is bearish. Okay. Now, having said that, I personally don't have fixed mindset, because my direction for the price is purely driven by price level, key levels, key supports and resistance. So I don't mind changing my view if that level is broken. So everything is conditional. Some people are always bullish, you know that. I mean, they keep talking about bullish setup no matter what. And some people are so bearish, they keep on talking about. Very few people I have seen, very few people. Okay, there are some people, there's third category who are bullish, but kind of very different. What they do is when the price goes down, they go silent. I've seen that. Okay, for a month or two, they go silent. And then when the bounce starts, they again resurface. They are also bullish all the times, but they go silent. So these are some people. They really literally leave their community when there is tough time to explain that it is really going down. But they don't want to say that. So there's some people like that. But there are very few people who would talk about both the directions. Very few people. Okay. So this is so simple, right? I think this is easier for me this week. Let's look at DXY. Now DXY has touched the last resistance. You see the behavior here. Okay, so now look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 weekly green candle. This thing, this kind of green candle had happened in year 2014. When I look back the chart, because this kind of consistently green candles, I was just eyeballing. I couldn't find anything, but then I found here. This is also like mixed, but yeah, I found some here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is the only occasion I found 12 green candles in 2014. And this is this is the next one. Point is, this is insane move. In fact, this is more aggressive than that one because the length of this height of this candle is much bigger than the one in 2014. However, it has reacted. Look at it. So we'll look at the reaction here. Now, this is not deep enough for us to say this is killed. This is not deep enough. But what I like is the reaction of uh, DXY on this level. This is what it is. See, each resistance, it had reacted. I remember I had given resistance here as well. It reacted. I had given here, it reacted. Okay, it didn't ignore. And here as well. So you have been with me for a long time, so you know that. But I'll repeat for everyone in case they forgot. You see, so I'll explain the purpose of resistance. Okay. And the same point is for the support, but the other way around. So what is resistance? Resistance, you can take the literal meaning. The resistance is like a roadblock. You are driving a car, right? So think about three scenarios. There is some kind of traffic jam, or let's say some kind of a tree has fallen, or in a worst case, the road is closed, but not forever. So these are the three scenarios. So traffic jam is the first scenario where it could slow down, sometime it pauses. You have to really literally stand still, doesn't move, right? If there is let's say major accident, so stand still, clearing the road. So that's first scenario. Second scenario is where it retraces, means there is a tree has fallen, so they say, okay, you go through some other route, some kind of a detour. So basically it's just matter of a day or whatever in terms of in this analogy. But in some cases it could be for weeks, and then they change the whole entire route for many weeks. If there is a heavy, let's say, bridge is being constructed or something like that. So imagine this kind of scenario where while you're driving, it's the same thing happens. This is like you're driving, and along the way, this is your path, and there is resistance, and there are three kinds of resistance I mentioned. One is just a pause and then resumes. Second is retracement, means correction, and then continues again on the upside. And thirdly is where it reverses. So now the thing is, so resistance essentially is a checkpoint. So you have to see which one of these three could happen. Now the thing is, you cannot figure out at that resistance, because unlike driving, you can find out whether the tree has fallen, the bridges, or instruction is written that this is closed for a week or month. In so in price action, at the resistance, you cannot find out. Okay, that's the challenge, unlike the driving analogy. Okay, so what happens is, what you need is then the support level. So let's say this was the resistance, it retraced. This is second scenario, okay, where there were three days of correction, let's say. But is it deep enough? Has it broken, or had it broken the support? Not, because it started from here, it didn't even break the last one, and this was nothing. So what happens is, I would say, that's what we call, this is not deep enough. Means this drop is not deep enough. That means it's still second scenario. Okay, when the drop is deep, then we can say third scenario, where it could go under correction for a longer time. So when it is here, you cannot figure it out. However, the resistance are important, because resistance is a checkpoint, as I said, where you expect one out of these three scenarios to happen. And when it starts going down, then you say, okay, that's positive, means the resistance worked. So 50% of the work is achieved, but the 50% is not achieved. What is 50%? It hasn't broken the support yet. So what you do as a trader and TA is you track the downside move, okay? And you keep on tracking until you find that now this is sufficiently deep enough for it to retrieve or recover. And it is not just one support, it's a progress on the downside. So let's say if it breaks below 104, 104.3, then it's a significant drop. But if it breaks below this 103, and if in that case it will come under this orange line, then we can say DXY is in real trouble. Because remember, this was the channel we were tracking, it has broken. It could come all the way down, but what we would like to see is to break below this channel. So with that would be around 103. 103, I'm happy actually, 103. Yeah, if you ask me. I can calculate it with more precision later on when it comes nearby. At this moment, 50% of the work is done, we can say, where it reacted, but the remaining 50% is required, where it has to continue going down and break below 103. 104 is a big deal. 103 is what I think I would be looking forward. Okay. So if that happens, then I would say 102.8, if I want to be precise. That would be, I think, amazing. But I'll try to get even more accurate numbers. Uh, I had to calculate it, but this is like more visually I can tell you. So this is not deep enough, because it had happened in past as well. First downside move, unsuccessful, not deep enough, unsuccessful, unsuccessful, 3, 4, and this is one. So the things are not okay from the, I mean this is not done deal yet. Okay, not done deal yet. However, as I said, one should not think BTC is going to follow DXY every day or every week. Okay, This is reference data. If you are thinking that because DXY is bouncing, because then yes, BTC makes move accordingly, but not every time, because I have seen phases where both of them move up in the same direction as well. It's not always, but it happened, and at least for a few weeks it could happen, if not for the whole entire trend, but for a few weeks. So not to follow DXY blindly, refer that as a reference data, simple, right? Otherwise, if that is the case, why are we even, you know, analyzing BTC? Why everybody would analyze just DXY? So that's not the right way. But understanding is important, what it's doing, because weakness in DXY is advantage. So that's how I think that's how I'll put. We would like to see weakening DXY that will strengthen the BTC. Let's look at NASDAQ. So NASDAQ was also under weather. So it kind of survived here and now trying to bounce. Still, this is not high enough where we can say it is recovering. But it is good to see that it hasn't made new low, which is good. But yeah, it has to break about this zone, return back to this level 15,350. Again, this is reference data, not for any kind of a direct relationship. Because remember, when NASDAQ went up and BTC went down, so they moved differently. So that's why. And the consolidation of NASDAQ was very different. Look at this W shape, and BTC was totally different, as you could see. This was much more stronger when it took off from January. It is more like there was only one correction where the BTC had two major, and now a third one. And this was also not deep enough. This is nothing. So you see, it is the NASDAQ didn't follow DXY at all. Yeah. And only reason I believe that, the market assumes that uh, market is always forward looking, and they assumes that eventually, because remember DXY, when it falls from here to here, right? This was the top and this is the bottom, let's say recent bottom. There is always some bounce. So likewise, I explain, when what I explain here is when it retraces, you have to look for the support. Similarly, when it drops and then bounces, we have to look for the resistance. And this is allowed. This much of bounce is allowed. So the market knows that if it is bouncing, which is very obvious, because when it goes down, it's not going to go down every other week. There's going to be some bounce in between. What matters, I think, technically speaking, is what level it breaches. What if it comes down to this zone? Then market would realize that this is a serious problem. In my opinion, that's why NASDAQ or stock market didn't care. That, okay, this is bouncing, but this is still a dead cat bounce range, because the last resistance is here, 107. So I don't care if it bounces up to 107, but I would care, or I will get alerted only if it starts making move above. Because if it starts moving up in this direction on the upside, then it's a serious problem. But that means it's going for the full recovery. That means it's not good, right? So then only I think NASDAQ will go down, in my point of view, stock market. And BTC, I would simply say that BTC, I mean, the crypto has, we don't know who is putting more when, I mean, investment point of view, right? We are chartists and we follow chart, and we are not going to know when somebody is going to buy or sell. And it's true for, but point is, what we observe is, that the liquidity is not enough. And there are a lot of challenges with the regulations and so many attacks on crypto industry as a whole. So people are reluctant ETF was about to get approved and then got delayed, and so many people pull out money, and so much thing happened. So naturally, and speculative asset, I believe, get lesser money than the solid asset when the times are very tough. Remember, when there is enough liquidity, easy money, then speculative money or asset goes up. Sorry, speculated asset goes up rapidly. But when the time is tough, like what we are seeing right now, the inflation is still sticky and high, right? At that point in time, the speculative asset like crypto gets do not get enough money, which is obvious. So, like for example, even in our household, right, during the tough time, do we buy any luxury item or anything that we wish to buy, or we buy only essential? If you ask this question honestly, the answer is obvious that we try to buy only the essential items, which are, and we try to spend more money only when we have spare money, isn't it so? So similarly, the spare money means easy money, available money, okay, where we don't have to care about the present or near future. That's where. So I think the same mentality for the overall market also, because those who are investing, I believe they invest for longer time, and then once they convince that okay, now inflation or the Fed might pause, or may not go may not continue for long, raising interest rate, then they'll say okay, let me start putting money, I believe, because they are not here for 1 week or 1 month, they usually for longer term. So that's what happens. Again, this is my interpretation, right? I focus more on technicals, but if I had to think about what is happening on the fundamental side, probably these are the probable reasons, right? I could think about. Let's look at Bitcoin dominance chart, which because the altcoins are making good move, we could see pressure on BTC dominance. So if the alts start making move, especially the top high market cap alts, then I think BTC could weaken and probably try to retrace here. And if it breaks below this, as I mentioned last time, then we could really see even small cap going up. Overall market could boost, because that's what we observed when this thing happened. Okay. But right now, why the Bitcoin dominance is high? It is again the same thing that I mentioned about it, which I mentioned about stock market versus crypto, where stock market is more solid in terms of fundamental. The crypto is more speculative, comparatively speaking. Even in the stock market, there's a lot of speculation, but comparatively, stock market is more solid. But if we look at crypto, within crypto, if we have to do the same, then we'll say Bitcoin is more solid and the top alts are lesser. And if you then go even further down within the altcoins, then you can say, okay, top market cap alt, like they are more solid than any low cap, crypto. So you see the relative comparison you do. And I believe that the overall rally, including all altcoin, happened when BTC really go down significantly below critical level, which is 46% in my opinion. Then we'll see even so-called shitcoin will also go up. Otherwise, people will try to hold something which is relatively better. Remember, relatively better, right? And then when they think that okay, there is no risk from the macroeconomic point of view, they try to go for riskier assets. So remember, the let's say bond is more safer, than the stock is less safer, right? And then Bitcoin is lesser safer than, let's say, some altcoin, like the top altcoin is less safer, and then even low cap alt. So if you want to grade, you will grade like this, right? And I believe when there is enough liquidity and very healthy economy, then the riskiest asset will go up, you know, and not just go up, but they go crazy, right? And they really become very attractive, and that's how things work. So yeah, and especially forget about, I started with bond. In fact, the topmost is cash. That oh wow, some kind of echo. So cash is trash, we know, but cash is not trash when the economies are under pressure. So sometimes we have to park our money into cash for some weeks or some months until there is clarity on the market side. And then the money starts getting into different asset classes. I forgot about the gold as well and commodity market, but you can assume. I don't want to just compare each and, but the point is different asset classes, whether the bond, commodities, stock, or crypto, they have different types of risks, and the money come into those asset. For those asset depends on the condition of the economy, the market condition, and I think the interest rate. So that's my understanding. So I thought maybe uh, this will help you understand the bigger picture. Okay. So with this note, I would say I covered everything. We covered Bitcoin at 6 hour, 1 day, 1 week, different setup, key levels. We covered DXY, NASDAQ a little bit. Oh, we haven't covered the bond yields. The bond yields are crazy. They have broken about because the Fed is indicating that they could keep it for longer term. So they may pause it, but not necessarily reduce it. So that's why it's 4.6 the 10 year, which makes sense because the right now fund rate is 5.25 to 5.5 range. So longer term rate interest is around 4.5. And if you go 2 years, then it is close to 5.25 and so on. So like that. Um, but yeah, when the Fed will indicate that they're likely to reduce next year somewhere when the economy is good, let's say, then this will come down. But not so if we if I'll show you something. Why this is rising and why this is 2 year is not rising? Simply because it is flat. If you look at this, 2 years is flat because the Fed is pausing. That's why the 2 year is near term. Near term, it is very close to the fund rate. If you look at 1 year, then it is even closer to what is the fund rate. And if you, I mean, the 3 months would be the closest. That's how it is. 5.3, 5.25, and you see the plateau. You see the plateau. Why? Because the Fed is not planning to raise it further. And so basically this is the interest rate you get. So if you buy bond, you keep it for 3 months of maturity, you get 5.33 interest rate. But if Fed indicates that they are not going to raise further, but may cut, you will see this coming down. And other way around, if they say, okay, we are going to raise it further, then you will see this will also go up immediately. However, the longer term do not move. So if you look at the longer term, would be lesser because they don't think that for next 10 years the interest rate would be this much. So that's how it is. So the changes to longer term is slower. Anyway, it's a very different subject, but I thought maybe it'll help you understand. Let's go back to the main business. Okay, so I think this is good enough. I covered so much, which is required. Long story short, PTC is looking good, and looking positive. So I'll end this first session here and move towards our second one, swing coins.